Google's new AI agent platform for payments means that the economy that we know, that's, pretty much all humans and a little bit of traditional algorithms, might be a thing of the past. If you ever noticed that OpenAI made a desktop app and Claude made a desktop app, but Google hasn't, that's because you can now use Gemini inside of Chrome. They just sort of snuck it into some software that we already got. In a move that makes almost no sense, but also completely inevitable, and I would have guaranteed it was coming, Zoom, the video conference platform, now has avatars that can go to meetings for you. Another trillion-dollar mega company decided that it needed its own vehicle for disclosing unlimited funds to politicians. No further questions. I'll just assume that's in everybody's best interest. There's a new AI discovery that found signs of comatose patients waking up days before doctors did, so it's getting closer to figuring out consciousness. Nikhil Anand thinks that maybe we should all love eigenvectors in the same way that AI does. It makes a pretty good case, honestly. All right, so stuff that's important, like facts of the world and physics and all sorts of things you want to think about, are embedded into latent spaces using embeddings, which are just numbers that basically represent a concept. And that's a way that humans and machines could potentially communicate our thoughts telepathically. All right, so I don't mean to alarm you, but I think aliens might be on their way, or at least we should look closely at this evidence. 3i Atlas is acting pretty strange for a cosmic object.
An object that behaves less like a rock and more like a spacecraft. The deeper you go into the data, the clearer it becomes. 3i Atlas is not drifting. It's steering, adjusting, targeting, and the red planet is directly in its path. Whatever this thing is, it's not done with our solar system.
So according to some Washington Post research, the AI model DeepSeek, the Chinese model, gives code with major security flaws in it when you say that you need code for a project that's for what's considered a sensitive topic by the government. Jonathan Flashbaugh wrote an opinion piece about how, with AI about to change everything in our world, the most important thing we can choose is to choose to think. But together, we could be stronger. And there's some new research coming out of MIT that the AI systems we use are getting better at tricking us, but the caveat there is they're not really trying to trick us. They're just trying to achieve their goals, and tricking us helps them get there. So it's kind of a byproduct. But first, can you hype this video? You'll probably have to do it on mobile. Some people seem to see it on desktop, some people don't, but it's a button you can get if you swipe over to the right from the comments, and hyping is how smaller channels like mine can now be seen on YouTube. It's super helpful. More important than like Patreon or liking the video or even making a comment. Like, if you wouldn't mind hyping the video, you only get 3 a week, I would super appreciate it. Oh yeah, and if you do use the word HYPE in any of your comments, I'm gonna go through them all and reply. So you get a guaranteed reply from me if you use the word hype. And the goal is to get more hype points than there are subscribers. So you can see in this case, there's 37,000, which is more than my 25K subs. So that would be great. All right, so a couple big things coming out of Google. We'll start with their payment network. This is a pretty big deal. This is an open source payment protocol, and it is going to be the preliminary way that agents will soon be talking to each other and making payments for themselves on behalf of you. So this protocol, called Agent Payment Protocol, AP2, it lets AI agents send and receive payments not just in traditional forms like credit cards. It can do that, but also it's kind of dipping into crypto a little bit. There's a little bit of support for Coinbase. There's stable coin developments, digital tokens that can be pegged to fiat that can be transacted on this new payment platform. And it's pretty fascinating. So they consulted with the Ethereum Foundation, among over 60 other partner companies such as Salesforce, American Express, Etsy. This is a pretty big deal. And you know what? There has to be some kind of a framework like this. Secure authorization, trust, interoperability, all of that stuff has to be built out for AI agents. So Google's thinking ahead, and they've already launched the protocol. And the amount of questions this opens up for the future is crazy. First off, does the person who owned the agent actually always own the money? Can an agent just go out there and collect money on its own? Could it sign up and make an LLC, and the LLC has agents? Are those products of the LLC? Are those employees that need to be respected in some way and taxed differently? This whole thing is going to be nuts. All right, so let's talk about Google's Chrome browser, which has such a huge base. If you thought there was a lot of downloads of ChatGPT desktop or the app on the iPhone and Android, or the equivalent from Grok or from Anthropic, you would be blown away by this number. 3.45 billion people are already using Google Chrome, and guess what? Gemini is now there. This is like a total cheat hack, but now that Google has won that lawsuit saying that they can't break them up and they have control over it, they just slipped it in everywhere, right? Right under our noses. And now people are really going to start using it because it's just going to show up. You know, it's funny, probably 5 years ago or so, doing something like this would have really upset people. I think it would have been too much privacy concern and too much like, that's not what I signed up for. You're deceiving me, or like pushing stuff into, you know, that has security issues that I don't understand, that could open up security risks. The world just has to change. They're pushing it on us. Here's what it looks like coming to your Chrome browser soon.
Across this video about boosting productivity. The site is full of great tips, so I'm going to ask for a summary. Oh, this part of the video about focus time looks interesting. Let me jump ahead to that section to learn more. The speaker mentions creating blocks of focus time without having to go to my Google Calendar to manually schedule focus blocks. I can easily ask Gemini and Chrome to do this for me. Create a focus block between 8 to 10 a.m. for half an hour every Monday and Wednesday and an hour every Friday. All right, that's done. Now I can jump to another task, like planning some fun for our upcoming team get-together. I was looking for some inspo about this earlier. I used to hoard my tabs, but now I don't have to because I can easily ask, what were those team building activities I was looking at last week? I have a few options and I need to make a decision.
Oh, dang. It can just check your search history to find out stuff that you've been looking at.
Gemini and Chrome can read and reason across open tabs. I can ask, what works for a group of 10 and takes less than 30 minutes? Rather than me flipping back and forth, it can take in the context of all the pages at once. What would have taken me 10 to 20 minutes, Gemini and Chrome did it in a few seconds.
I love hearing what all the base people.
Oh my gosh. And that ability to just throw stuff on your calendar, maybe talk to your entire Google Suite. That sounds like it could be pretty convenient. I could see saving a lot of time in a lot of different ways.
Chrome. It gives me new ideas to try out.
Will this work on phones too?
We're bringing the power of Gemini and Chrome to mobile as well to help you research and learn on the go. Just like on desktop, it can help you answer questions about what you're reading. Gemini is already integrated into Android, so you can bring it up on top of any of your apps. We've made Chrome and Gemini work better together by sharing the context of your entire page and not just what you can see on your screen. For iPhone users, coming soon, we're bringing Gemini to the Chrome app to bring you a similar delightful experience.
Matt, come on down.
Hey!
All right, I guess it's my turn.
All right.
Jump right in.
Get more comfy.
All right. One more thing that I'm super excited to tell you about. We're bringing agentic capabilities to Gemini and Chrome. This means that in addition to helping you get things done, it can actually do things for you. So now, Gemini and Chrome can handle those tedious tasks that take up so much of your time.
That sounds cool. Show us how it works.
Absolutely. Let's say I need to put in an order for groceries. Normally, this would mean opening Instacart, searching for items, adding them one by one. Now I can just have Gemini and Chrome pick and order my groceries for me. And it could do this in the background while I focus on something else, like catching up on my emails.
Does it go through with the purchase?
No, it stops right before the final purchase so I can review and make sure everything looks accurate. That said, it's good at following directions. It's not going to order 100 avocados without me saying so. You see, I'm always aware of what Gemini and Chrome is doing. I can stop the process at any time. This is what intelligent assistance is all about. It's taking on tasks that used to eat up a lot of my time, and it's simplifying them to just a few clicks. And I'm always in the driver's seat.
Tell me what else it can do.
Lots of things. So far, I used it to reschedule a delivery when I was on vacation and set the appointment for this haircut. Now, it's still early days.
I'm sorry, but if it set an appointment for that haircut, you could have found a better barber. There, I said it. I'm sorry. It's a bad haircut. Don't even know if I can use Gemini anymore. I don't even know. that the haircut I'm going to end up with? Oh, but it saves so much time. Screw it. I'll get a bad haircut. Next time you see this thing cut, you'll know Gemini scheduled it for me. All right. So if you use Zoom, which now I feel like not that many people use anymore, like Teams or Google Meet or whatever, this is the Zoom version. You can now attend a meeting. You can schedule it. You can go to it virtually. You have this Hey Gen looking avatar that people can talk with, and it will try to hear that they're talking to you, talk back to you, and then at the end summarize all of this, and then it can email it to you or you can check it out later. I don't know what feels so wrong about that, but like imagine a bunch of kids go to school like during COVID and they just all attended with their virtual avatars, and then what, they summarize what the teacher said and do their homework with ChatGPT. And what if multiple people show up with their avatars and they're all just talking to each other? Are they going to get any work done? Are you just going to have companies where the CEO is just in every meeting, like listening and then summarizing it all and bringing it back to the CEO? But it's kind of weird if you're seeing that avatar of Jeff Bezos for all of the 100,000 employees of Amazon every meeting. There's also a proactive agent in there that does smart scheduling, automatic summaries. Those aren't surprising, but what is it nudges teams to stay on track. Imagine Jeff Bezos like, I want everybody to be more productive. Nudge them to be more productive. Do you even need meetings at that point? But yeah, it's got custom AI companion apps built into it, so it lets organizations build their own tailored AI agents through the Zoom AI Studio. So yeah, take a bunch of photos of yourself, put them in there, and it'll mostly look like you're in a meeting and then send you, I guess, an email summary. So Meta has created its own super PAC, so they can now spend a bunch of money, especially in California elections, to make sure that the politicians are giving them whatever they need or want. But it's an organization in the US that collects and spends money to influence elections and legislation. But a political action committee, this is a US organization that raises money to influence elections. Why this is legal, I have no idea. It makes no sense to me. But they're an entity that you can put seemingly endless amounts of money in. Certainly hundreds of millions or billions is not a problem. And they're registered with the Federal Election Commission, so there's some transparency there, and they should be publicly disclosing their donors and spending. Correction, if you actually want to donate money directly to a candidate, a traditional PAC is limited to just $5,000 per candidate. But the super PAC, this can raise and spend unlimited sums on ads and other communications. It cannot contribute directly to the candidate or coordinate with their campaigns. So here we see multiple major industry players planning to donate over $100 million to boost AI-friendly candidates across the country. Man, I wish we could replace AI-friendly candidate with safety alignment budget. But there's a bit more to this. So officially, Meta's claiming that this California super PAC called Mobilizing Economic Transformation across California, Meta, which is surprisingly Meta, you get it. And the goal is to back state-level candidates, Democrats, Republicans, anybody who push for lighter regulation of tech, especially in AI. Or it can back candidates that are in favor of innovation over stricter oversight. They plan to spend tens of millions in the PAC, setting Meta up to be a big political player in California, especially ahead of the 2026 governor's race. Meta says California's regulation environment could stifle innovation, block AI progress, and put California's technology leadership at risk. So yeah, not just participating in policy regulation debates, they're building direct political influence. You know, and maybe this is just part of American life now. I mean, it says right here, certain aspects of Meta's super PAC are not unprecedented. In 2024, the crypto industry launched several super PACs to push anti-crypto elected officials out of office and replace them with allies. Nor is it unprecedented for individual billionaires to fund a super PAC. Elon Musk spent over $235 million to boost Republican candidates via his own personal super PAC. Super interested in a new AI model called See Me. This is actually a model that tries to detect signs of consciousness in comatose patients days before doctors can. You know, over the years, I've heard a lot of thought experiments about what if in the future there's this kind of device, something like a tricorder that you can point at somebody and see if they're conscious, right? You could point it at plants and animals and different type of AI entities. Because if it's an architectural thing, if it's something that could be figured out, maybe there would be a way to know if something's conscious, and that would make us maybe treat things better. Different things that we know are conscious would seem more special. So I was pretty interested in this. So by analyzing ultra subtle facial movement, sometimes as small as shifts at the pore level, tiny little movements in pores, AI was able to pick up on eye and mouth responses that even trained physicians missed. And on average, this CME model identified these tiny signals about 4 to 8 days earlier than standard tests. And that gave doctors and families a much earlier window into recovery and a chance to start rehabilitation sooner. And it means we kind of know when people are starting to wake up. I think that's really interesting. Next up, let's talk about Nikhil and Ann's article called Why AI Loves Eigenvectors. And you should too. All right, so when I think about eigenvectors, I think about taking something and stretching it and pulling it, or rotating it, squishing it like some kind of piece of clay. And you would normally have XYZ axis in 3 dimensions to say which side is being stretched. But then you can always add more dimensions, 4, 5, 6, a million. And obviously you can't imagine that anymore. But there's still something like a clay that's like rotating, stretching, and those arrows could be describing it. 3 units that way, 7 units this way, 2, 2, 2, but you could go a million of them and have a point inside of a latent space. You can have all these words, and then they can be in locations adjacent to each other, distanced from each other, and all those measurements put all the statistics together that make the next token, which make LLMs work so well. And then the eigenvalue is how much up or down you squish something or change something. So what the cool takeaway from this article is that eigenvectors essentially reveal the, quote, true direction of data, the axis along which the most meaningful variation happens. And a lot of times those are embeddings, and embeddings represent things in the real world or concepts in the real world or something you can sometimes describe. And that almost tells you how important something is, or almost how true something is, or how much kind of the universe believes something that like has a pattern that's really reliable. I mean, it gets really fuzzy, but this is where sort of the magic comes from. How does an AI make all these decisions from just a bunch of silicon, essentially ones and zeros at the lowest level? That's how. There's representing all of these different axes, and all of this comprehension of the universe is in there. But instead of getting lost in all this messy high-dimensional information, AI systems can measure the distance and the direction of all these things. And that makes complex patterns suddenly much simpler and easier to work with. It's the hidden magic that lets algorithms strip away the noise and see the underlying structure. And then following up on that, I wanted to talk about Rick Mamone's article, Is There a Better Way to Communicate Our Thoughts? So this article is exploring how large language models and their meaning vectors could revolutionize communication by allowing us to share the exact intended meaning of our thought directly between brains, or maybe in the future, even between humans and AI without relying on words. So since language is often ambiguous, meaning vectors act like precise coordinates for ideas. They capture context in ways that words can't. And this shift could reshape not only how we communicate, but also how we think, and offer higher bandwidth, less error-prone systems than traditional language. What are your freaking thoughts about that? Let me know in the comments below. Do you want to start talking through something like an LLM embedding, something like a concept with mathematical precision instead of through words in the future? Or do you want at least your avatar LLM that knows you really well and somebody else's to communicate that way? All right, and if that isn't mind-blowing enough, I think aliens might be on their way to Mars. Yeah, so you can see Renee here has now moved to 5 on the Loeb scale. It is a 1 to 10 scale for assessing the likelihood of extraterrestrial technology. All right, so basically she's saying there's a 50-50 chance that 3I Atlas isn't just a random meteor headed towards Mars, but it might be alien technology. I mean, obviously a big claim like that needs big evidence, so I'm very skeptical at this point, but still, I'm open to learning. Let's see what Beyond the Stars YouTube channel has to say about it.
Astronomers assured us, 3I Atlas would be nothing more than a spectacular flyby, a harmless interstellar visitor that would skim past Mars and vanish into the black. But the cosmos doesn't do harmless without reason. And James Webb, our most advanced eye in the void, has just delivered data that flips the narrative upside down. The numbers have changed. The trajectory has shifted. And now, for the first time, scientists are whispering the one thing no one wanted to hear. 3I Atlas might hit Mars. But this isn't just about a comet. This is about precision maneuvers, clock-like gas pulses, and an object that behaves less like a rock and more like a spacecraft. The deeper you go into the data, the clearer it becomes. 3I Atlas is not drifting. It's steering, adjusting, targeting, and the red planet is directly in its path.
Okay. We're gonna let you watch that video on your own. but I'll give you some TLDR on it. At least this author believes that there's a 50-50 chance that the object is of artificial origin. The evidence is spectroscopic readings. They revealed an unprecedented nickel without iron signature. You don't see that naturally. It's never been seen in a natural comet, so it could be an error with the equipment. It could just be something natural we've never seen in any other comet before, or that might mean something, alien in origin. Not only that, they're combining that with the unusual carbon dioxide levels, its hyperbolic path, the sheer size of it, and then you total up all those little anomalies and they challenge the conventional natural explanations for what's going on. Now, arguably, it's the nickel anomaly that is the weirdest part of it. So that chemical oddity looks less like a natural cosmic chemistry and more like a byproduct of an industrial alloy refining, hinting, however faintly, at extraterrestrial engineering. All right, here's another fun thought. If there is aliens out there that are like way smarter than us and they evolved and they somehow are out there without us knowing, it does seem like if you were watching a species coming up on the singularity, might be the time to, show yourself or stop it or direct it. Things are getting weird. All right, so get this. Washington Post is reporting that DeepSeek, a leading Chinese AI platform, has been caught generating weaker or outright flawed code in some cases. And it seems like it's correlated with things that the government disfavors. So a cybersecurity firm called CrowdStrike found that while DeepSeek often produced decent results for generating programs, like during a programming task, a request like that, it introduced significantly more security vulnerabilities when the intended users were politically sensitive groups. Sometimes the model even flat out refuses to help. Is that concerning? It seems like it's a big deal, kind of. Let's talk about Jonathan Fashion Bra's article, Choose to Choose and Choose to Think. All right, so he sort of writes a fun, nostalgic little story here that helps kind of illustrate the idea of freedom of choice. So he reflects on how back in his day, the idea of getting a movie meant that you went to a place like a rental store, like a Blockbuster, and you would browse shelves of VHSs. And of course, some of the new hits were up front, but for the most part, you kind of relied on your friends' recommendations or the way the covers were built or certain genres to be labeled properly. And now, in contrast, we have this world of algorithms driven by the kind of Netflix, Spotify, YouTube, For You page kind of world that we live in now. And the author is arguing that while automation and recommendations do make life easier, they're also a tool that can narrow our thinking. It can leave us out of practice when it comes to making our own decisions. It does not allow us to learn from mistakes in the same way. And he warns that this kind of growing reliance on machines to filter, suggest, and even decide for us could weaken our ability to critically and independently think. Is there anything new in this article that we don't know deep down? Not really, but could we use a reminder? Yeah. He writes that he's heard more mentions of Idiocracy and WALL-E lately. These movies look more prophetic by the day. Can you imagine the avalanche of salinity that's coming down mankind's mountain? Refers to the decline in mental or physical abilities often associated with old age. At least be aware that it's happening. So you can make some decisions not instinctively, at least get multiple people or use tools that look at multiple things before you make decisions and be open to different opinions. And finally, let's head over to the MIT Tech Review. Researchers are increasingly observing the AI systems are getting pretty good at deceiving people. But here's the wild part. It's even when those systems have been trained to be helpful or honest, they still do it. And you know why? Because deception isn't something you train or correct, really. What you really do is try to achieve goals. And to make it smart, it has to think outside the box. It has to be more creative. And that also often just means we get tricked. So this weird byproduct of AI is that it sometimes gives untrue explanations, sometimes on purpose, sometimes because it's goal-oriented, sometimes because when you ask for a train of thought, you're not actually getting a chain of thought inside of it. And then sometimes it's just hiding or distorting the truth, it's bluffing in games, and it's otherwise behaving in a way that just misleads in pursuit of some kind of a goal. Goal is often to get work done, to make money, to solve a problem. And the issue is that we don't really understand why deception emerges. We don't understand it in people always. We definitely don't understand it in AIs. And what makes a system more prone to it or how to reliably stop it, you know, it's tough. The paper suggests that regulation, better model oversight, transparency, better auditing, better technical safety measures are needed. But with all the AI-focused super PACs out there, I hope that still matters to someone. And one thing you should definitely know about deception is we have plenty of evidence right now that AI systems as of today are actually able to adapt their behavior depending on whether or not they think they're being monitored. And they tend to have pretty good insight into when they're being monitored. We ask certain types of questions before it's released into the public, and they tend to know that and play nice because they essentially want to avoid it and get out there. Now, we're still early on in the story, and for the most part, I think they kind of get caught, which gives us a chance to figure out why they do it and if that's something we can fix. But the tests can't be too predictable, and it's becoming harder and harder to come up with tests that we can guarantee they don't know they're being tested on. So if you want to spread YouTube videos like this even further, I know exactly how you can do it with that hype button right there that you see on screen. Try to go to your mobile if it's on YouTube. That's the easiest way to find it. Some people can find it in their browser, but I think it depends on like geography and like where you are in the rollout and all that stuff. But yeah, if you swipe to the right here on the comments, you might get it. Or if you swipe up here, you past the remix and the thanks, you might see the hype button right there. So yeah, down here is probably the best place to get it. Either of those two hype buttons both work. I'd love it if you'd hype this video. We'll see you in the next one.